So now that you've got your bodice made and you're happy with that, we need to look at the multi-designs on this pattern. You can add a sash. So here's the pattern again, just to remind me as well as you. So we're doing B, which is simple, sleeveless with, it actually has no sash, but I said that I would show you how to do the sash as well. So we turn it over and we see that the sash is fastened in a bow at the back, although on the pattern front it has it fastening at the front. So you need to work out what fabric you want to do the sash as the contrast. Now you could, if you wanted, just use your lining fabric, which is going to be a suitable colour. I'm just wondering whether to use that. What do we think? Let's have a look. Do we want sash in the blue, or do we want a sash in the... No, I'm going to do it in the blue. I was going to do it in the cream. I'm going to use my lining fabric. So this is what you would do to do your sash. So we have our fabric folded in half still, and we have it with the fold closest to us. I always have the fold closest to me. It's just the way that I've done it for the last 40 odd years that I've been sewing. Now, the tie end, this says cut 2, and it's on the straight grain. Can you see that little arrow there? So we're looking at, the way that we've done it previously is to do 2 like that. Well, clearly the fabric isn't wide enough. So this is with the fabric cut selvage to selvage, folded selvage to selvage. So we now need to fold it the opposite way round, so that we are folding it lengthwise. And again, we will put the fold closest to us, just because that's the way we've always done it. So you see here, we've got the fold closest to us. So now our straight grain will go the opposite way on the fabric. Can you see that? Let me move that over there a bit. Okay, and I'll bring you down. There we go. You see we've got the straight grain here now. So we do exactly the same as we have done with everything else. And I'm going to change this because we don't need all that fabric. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to fold over as little as I need. There we go. We don't need half width for doing this. We just need a thin piece that's just wide enough for making the sash. There we go. Right, so we've got that. And our warp is now running from the tripod to the window, and our weft is running again still weft to right, because our selvages are at either side. So we put our pattern piece on, and we want it on the straight grain, so we do the same as we've done previously. we put our pivot pin in where the lines cross, and we get our tape measure and we measure to make sure that we've got it straight. So this time we're measuring from the line to the selvage, and we're on 4 inches there, and from the line, and we're 4 inches there. So we will pin in place all the way around like we've done previously. Now again, this piece is, it's not cut to the edge because, well, let's face it, if it's a bit longer, you can make a bigger bow. So that's your tie end on the straight grain. Your front band, you see the arrow is going off at an angle. That means that you want to put this on the bias. So what does the bias mean? Well, the bias is a 45-degree angle. You've heard of bias binding. It's got some give in it. If you cut something, bias binding, if you cut something on the bias, it's got a bit of stretch to it. Not much, just enough. So this piece we will fold over. We will fold it onto a 3-year-old because we want it to fit the bodice that we've already done. So I'm doing it for a 3-year-old. I need to fold it over on the 3-year-old line. And then we will place it on the pattern, on the fabric. We only need one because it's just going on the front. So here we go. We've got a single layer of fabric here, and we are putting it on the bias there. So although the arrow is straight, not quite straight, there we go. Although the arrow is straight, the pattern piece is at a 45-degree angle. So we now do the same process again. We put the pivot pin in and we take our tape measure and we measure from the line to the selvage, which is just over 6 inches, and from the line to the selvage, and that's just under 6 inches. So we want to move it out a little bit. We need to make sure that this arrow is straight. We're not quite there yet. Move it a little bit more. There we go. So the arrow is straight, and if I had my fabric weights to hand, I would put a weight on it. There we go. So we then want to pin this the same as we have pinned our other pieces. Diagonal corners so that it won't move, and then all the corners so that it's secure, and we are going to cut those pieces out. For these 2 pattern pieces, I would suggest you need an additional ½ metre of contrast fabric, whether it be lining or a different colour. Say you're making a red dress and you fancy a white sash, get a ½ metre of the white. You will have more than enough then, but you need a little bit more because of putting this piece on the bias. Now we're going to cut them out and I will be back with you. So we've got our front piece and we've got our, I've taken the pattern off already, pattern piece there. So what we're going to do is the front pattern piece has got the circles that match up with our tailor tacks on our bodice. Now, I am going to do it my quick way. You can do it this way if you want. you can follow the lead if you feel confident enough to do it. Fix-on pen and scribble your dots onto your fabric. Make sure that it's gone through the paper so that you've got a mark on it. It's just quicker and easier, and in my 40 odd years of dressmaking, it's kind of the way that I do it now. So we've got our dots. You can see the dots. I can see the dots. So what we need to do now is we're going to hem this piece. So we're going to fold it over and over again so there's no rough edges. So just a small hem, a rolled hem if you can do a rolled hem. But just a small hem close to the edge. Pin it, stitch it, turn it round. When we've done that, we're going to gather the edges so that we've got a nice gathered front, and we're going to offer it up to our front bodice. So this is what we're ultimately looking at. I'm going to get my sewing machine now, and I'm going to show you the hem and how we do a machine gathering stitch. So we're now just doing this hem on the centre band. It's important that you don't stretch your fabric. It's just a turned hem to get it tidy, neat and tidy there. I've chosen not to use my overlocker. Well, to begin with, not everybody has an overlocker. And secondly, you don't really need it. Now, the idea is that you try not to stretch it. This is on the bias, so it has got some stretch. But we try not to stretch it too much. It's, you know, pretty difficult not to stretch it at all. Right. Now we come to the tie ends. I've marked the end. For some reason, my camera doesn't seem to like this. So I've marked the dots that are matching the pattern piece like we did before on the front band. And I've folded. So I've folded whilst it's still together, one towards me and one away from me, so that I've got two pieces. Just if there is a difference in the fabric, I know that I've got them both the same way round. So now we're going to go and we're going to stitch them together from the edge all the way along. You can pin it. Please pin it. I don't need to. Please pin it towards the edge. I'll go a bit quicker. So we are stitching all the way along. Nice and straight, at your 5/8 of an inch, till you come to your corner. When you come to your corner, it's the same as we did before. So we stop and we check, and we line up at the edge of our fabric, and, well, it's not 5/8 of an inch, so we'll carry on a couple more stitches. And we'll turn it again. There we go. We're on 5/8 of an inch. So we'll do our single stitch for the corner. And we're coming right to the end here, because this is going to be turned the right way round. There we go. I've gone straight off the end. So we've got our diagonal stitch here, and we've come right to the edge. Same with this one. We do 5/8 of an inch all the way along. You're watching your edge of your fabric against your piece of tape. And when you come to the point, you stop, you check. This is moved slightly, but I'm happy with it. Half turn and right the way to the edge and finish off. So now that we've got this, we're going to tidy up our corner. So there we go. So we're going to cut off here at an angle, and we are reducing the bulk, and we are going to cut all the way up. We are reducing the bulk across to follow that diagonal, and here we can just go easy out to the edge and off. Okay, I'll show you again with this one. So we want to cut the corner off, and we want to ease off the bulk diagonally across the corner and just head over to the edge. There we go. Okay. And now we need to set the seams like we've done on the bodice, and we need to turn it the right way round. So we set the seam and we turn it the right way round. I'm sure somewhere there is a gadget. I'm sure Jack will have a gadget for this. But basically what I do is I stick my nail right into the corner, pull it out, and then just pull it straight-ish. And where I've got the corner, I use a pin. Just pull that last little bit out. You see there, that's almost right. It's not too bad. Just pull your corner out. There we go. Okay, so we've got a nice point. And then you press it. Okay, so I'm going to set up my ironing board, go and press them, and I'll be back in a minute. Right, now we've pressed our ties, we need to run a gathering stitch along the edge of them. So I have got gathering stitch on my machine, and we don't want to start and finish. You pull your both threads through to the top and give a long tail, and then line the edge of your presser foot along the edge of your fabric. Ignore your piece of tape for now. And then for the second one, we line the edge of the presser foot along the line of the gathering thread that we've just done. So we do that with both of the pieces, and we've also done that along the edge of the front band, and this is how we will also gather the skirt. It's all the same process, because what you're going to do is when you come to stitch these ties in place, you're going to stitch between these two rows of gathering stitches. So that's why we like to have a nice gap in between. So we've done both the ties and we've done the front band. So we now bring back our bodice piece that we have stitched together, the front and the lining. And what we want to do is we want to just work, where did that come from? We want to just work on the front piece. So move your lining out of the way so that you know that you're just working on your outer front fabric. And what we are going to do is we're going to put our front band, which is the same width as the front bodice, and we are going to gather it. So what we do is we take our 2 top threads. Yeah, can you see those? And we pull them gently so that our fabric gathers. And we do it from both sides. So we take the 2 top threads and we gently pull it together so that we are gathering our fabric so that it looks nice, so that we're happy with it. And we offer it up so that it matches where we have got the tailor tacks. So we go to that tailor tack and we go to that tailor tack. Now this, you can see, it's too wide yet, so we want to pull it up a little bit further. We just want it to look as though our front band has been just gathered nicely into the seam. So when we are happy with it, can we see there? Yeah, when we're happy with it, we want to pin it in place. Okay, I want to put 2 pins in and then it's nice and secure. And we're going to do the same with this other side. So we're going to get our 2 top threads and we can get them untangled. There we go, 2 top threads. And we're going to just gently pull them both together. And we take our other 2 top threads from the other end and we pull those gently together. Now, if you don't have a tacking stitch on your sewing machine, don't worry about it, because you can do this by setting your sewing machine to its longest stitch that it will do. So the longest regular stitch that your machine will do, you can still do this tacking stitch. And then, so we've gathered it up and we've pinned it. Now what we will do, we will be stitching our skirt piece along here. So we want this well out of the way. So we'll just pin that up out of the way. We don't want to get that caught in our skirt, because then we will have to start unpicking, and we don't like unpicking. Now we come to our ties for the back, and I always put the seam at the bottom of the tie. It just gives a nicer look. You don't see where the fabric has joined. So we're doing the same again. We are going to take the top 2 threads from each side and we are going to pull them so that we gather the fabric together. So get that top thread untangled and we're going to pull it together. Okay, like that. And then we are going to turn it round and we're going to put it so that it's matching the dots in place to the edge of our seam. And again, we are only dealing with the front fabric. So let's move the lining out of the way. And we've gathered that. It's only gathered in the middle, but it still looks nice. So we then pin it in place quite firmly. And that's one side done. And we're going to repeat that with the other side. So move the lining out of the way. We don't want that caught in it at the moment. And we're going to gather our piece, top 2 threads, pull, and the other top threads, and pull. And why do we do it this way? Well, because when you're gathering a large piece, it's easier to pull it from both sides. And let's get into the good habits early. We offer it up, and make sure that it fits, and we pin. Oops, we do pin. Quite firmly. Okay, so now we're going to stitch those 3 pieces into the bodice. So the final part for your bodice is matching your side seams now. So what we need to do, we can take the tailor tacks out of the lining. We don't need those anymore because we've already put our sashes on. So we'll take those out, get rid of those. Now we're going to join our underarm seams, and we make sure that the seam allowance goes down towards our main fabric. Now let me see if I can find some pins, because heaven knows where they've gone. There's a few. So just going to pin at a right angle at the underarm seam, and we're going to pin at the bottom of the bodice, and we're going to pin together the lining. There we go. And because you've cut it on the straight grain, there's no stretch, so it doesn't get out of shape. Now I'm just going to check my machine is set up properly. There we go. And so again, we're going to follow our 5/8 of an inch, which is where the tape is. And we're going to stitch along there. Keeping our edge of our fabric on the edge. You can see I've not cut that very straight. On the edge of the tape. So all the way down. Straighten out. Make sure that you've got your tie and your front band out of the way at this bottom bit. So 5/8 of an inch all the way down. Finish off. And you will repeat with the other side. Just exactly the same as we've done with this. Put your side seams together. Match your underarm seam. Bring your seam allowance down towards your main bodice fabric. Pin it together. Got one more pin there. I've only got one more pin, so I'm going to pin it together there. Make sure that this is out of the way properly there. Join up your lining. 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure you're matching up your bodice there. And all the way down. There we go. Now, when you take your pins out, you have got your side seams nicely stitched together. And what you then will do, you will open your seams up so that they lie open and flat, and press your bodice so that you've then got your bodice nicely stitched together at the side and under your arm. Can you see that there? Okay, so I'm just going to put a little pin in there and sort out this other side, and we'll press our seams open and flat. I'm just going to open it for now. Press it open and flat. Bring it down so that it matches. Open your seam allowance up. Nice and tidy. Stick a pin in there. Just make sure that it's all nice and level. And there you have, push that out of the way, there you have your bodice with your ties attached. Those come round to the back, there, like that. And on your front, you've got your front band, and there are no raw edges, and it's all nice and tidy, so that we are ready now to do the skirt. Okay.